Now it's time to read my classical piece of literature, and I thought I'd show you some little tips and tricks for how to do that. And I'm making myself laugh because today I learned a new acronym for social media. I'm making myself laugh because I'm thinking, if people don't want to read a text, and now I'm asking them to read a full piece of literature, oh my goodness. So let's take a look at this. There's a way to do this that is very fun and rewarding, and I'll promise you that. So stay with me. I've been using the example of Oliver Twist, and I have the free PDF here, and just scrolling through the contents is intimidating because I'm looking at this, I'm going, oh my goodness, I don't even want to read a 5-sentence text, and now I'm looking at all this. But let me show you how to do this in a way that is fun and rewarding. I'm still going to keep this up on my screen, but this is what I'm going to do. I came over to ChatGPT, and before I even look at this novel, this is the way I'm going to do it. You can do it a different way. You can sit down and read it or whatever you want to do. I'm making this suggestion. This is by no means a requirement. This is just how I might approach this if I were overwhelmed by the language and the length of the novel that I'm reading. So I've asked ChatGPT to write a short summary of the novel Oliver Twist. And in lightning speed, I get this synopsis. And I'm going to read that, and now I know what the novel is about. And I go back over here to the novel itself, and even with that knowledge, I look at this language and I feel overwhelmed. I think I am not getting a grasp of this. And so I'm very patient with myself, and I simply take this and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to summarize this for me. Okay, so you see what ChatGPT did? And I know you all are so clever about this. I would create a project in my ChatGPT for all of these entries as I go through and read the story. So I asked it to do that. It gives me this information. And now that I know what the chapter is about, this is the key part. I'm going to go back over to that text. I'm going to make sure I understand all this, and if I don't, I'll ask ChatGPT to rephrase it in a way that makes sense to me. I'm very kind to myself in this process. How would I know how to read Oliver Twist? How would I know how to do that if I've got to be patient with myself. So if this doesn't make sense, then I ask it to rephrase it. So now I know what the chapter is about, and I go back over to the text. And now, when I read the words in the chapter, they make sense to me because I know what the chapter describes. Do you see that? And so I can take my time and read this knowing that I understand what it is saying. It's a short chapter. Come to my next chapter. Same story. I look at it, I go, oh man, I don't get it. So I take this, I go back over to ChatGPT, and I repeat the process. So this time, just as an example, I write a summary of this chapter, and I ask ChatGPT to use language that's easy to understand. And let's see what it comes up with this time. And there it comes. Okay, now I see what this chapter is about. And so there is the summary of chapter 2. Now I repeat the process. I go back over to the chapter. And now when I read through, it won't be intimidating because I know what's happening. And as I read through, I'm getting better and better and better at learning how this author writes, because I've allowed ChatGPT to work with me, not to replace my own intelligence, but to work with me to help me understand how to read this literature that's from the 19th century. Now I come down to chapter 3, and I think to myself, do I feel like I can understand this chapter without using ChatGPT? No, I still need ChatGPT. So I copy this, I go back to ChatGPT, so I paste that in, I ask ChatGPT to summarize, and when this comes up, I read the summary, and now I know what's happening. I go back over to the text, and I'm very gentle with myself. And now I scroll through this chapter, and I see, and I'm learning how to read this style of writing because I know what's happening. And I go through and I read this, and now I can start to hear character voices because I'm going through this gentle process with myself. And I come down to chapter 4. And if it still looks like something that I need to have help understanding, I repeat the process. And if I have to repeat the process through the entire novel, then I repeat the process through the entire novel. I'm very easy on myself. I'm learning how to understand 19th century American literature. Isn't that fantastic? Who would have thought that I would know how to do this as a result of taking this class? And again, I love using ChatGPT for things like this. It's wonderful because, again, I'm using it to help me, not to replace me, but to help me. So I hope this little tutorial is helpful to any of you who might want to do that with the works of literature that you have chosen to study.